Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is a real pleasure for me to be here with you today. Watching Montenegro making rapid progress on its path into Euro-Atlantic structures fills me with optimism, no matter whether I speak as a NATO official or as a Hungarian. In the not-so-distant past, one used to say that the Balkans produce more history than they can consume. That history, however, has now taken a major turn, away from the never-ending cycle of crises and into the European mainstream. The notion that the Balkans were somehow condemned to perennial conflict has disappeared. In my remarks today, I would like to offer a few observations on NATO's role in the Balkans, where we came from, where we'll be going, and most importantly, what this means for Montenegro. My first observation: engagement has paid off. The first half of the 90s were characterized by a collective Western inability to appreciate the Balkan conflicts as a major challenge to European security. Indeed, many in the West were trying to keep Southeast Europe at arm's length. The region was told to first settle its problems before knocking at the door of Europe's more fortunate half. The fear of getting tied to the proverbial Balkan powder keg kept countries away from tackling the problem head-on. Western approaches were therefore uncoordinated and very often ad hoc. This brings me directly to my second point. Countries do have a learning curve, and consequently, so do the institutions in which countries coordinate their policies. It took several years before the international community, including NATO, developed a coherent approach vis-à-vis Bosnia. When the Kosovo crisis heated up, the need to become engaged led to a coherent reaction within weeks. In the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, the alliance displayed an even shorter reaction time. In fact, NATO did not merely react, but it took measures to prevent the crisis from escalating. In short, the need to engage early has been assimilated by our nations and institutions. My third point, international law is more powerful than we think. Just a few weeks ago, who would have thought that General Mladic would finally end up in The Hague? Well, he now is in The Hague, and he is not alone. This demonstrates that international law not only condemns, but also prosecutes perpetrators, even if sometimes it indeed takes much longer time than originally thought. All this will go a long way towards closing a dark chapter of the history of this region and towards fostering the kind of reconciliation that is indispensable for embracing the future. My fourth point, the international community must stay engaged in the region. Currently, our governments are preoccupied with issues such as the impact of the financial crisis or the handling of Libya or broad security challenges like cyber defense or the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction or terrorism. But we must not, and we will not, let these developments distract ourselves from finishing what we all have recognized as our unfinished business in Southeast Europe: the completion of these countries' integration into the Euro-Atlantic structures. The European Union and NATO must continue to keep their doors open in a credible way, and both of them must provide clear and realistic guidance for these countries so that they can chart a viable course. Fulfilling these conditions of membership will remain a key requirement. But let there be no doubt, this is a two-way street. Once these requirements are met by the applicant countries, they should not be kept waiting for much longer. And this brings me to my fifth point. Montenegro is on a viable course. The country is energetically pushing reforms across the entire spectrum of its domestic and foreign agenda. It participates fully and constructively in regional initiatives, building good relations with all its neighbors. This is testimony to the country's ability and willingness to act as a responsible and mature player within the region, but not only, also beyond that, within the larger Euro-Atlantic community. Just half a year ago, Montenegro became a EU candidate country. Given that its independence was achieved only 5 years ago, this is, I think, a very powerful indication of Montenegro's reputation as a reliable and committed country. The country is clearly on the right track, not only in introducing, but also in implementing an impressive reform agenda. The European Commission identified a few areas for the country that still need more work. I'm confident that Montenegro will address them in a timely manner. As far as NATO is concerned, Montenegro is a very much valued partner country for NATO that participates actively in ISAF and in a range of activities offered by NATO. Above all, the country is making steady progress within the membership action plan. So in Montenegro's case, the question, for quite some time already, is not about if, but rather when the country completes its journey into NATO. And this brings me to my last point, which is to stress the importance of building strong public support for the country's bid for NATO's membership. Strong commitment and determined efforts of governments to promote their country's membership in NATO are clearly paramount, no doubt about that. But in itself, this is not enough. It is not just governments that join our alliance. It is countries. That is why it is crucial, also for the success of the alliance, to bring the wider population along. Let me refer to the experience of my own country, Hungary, in that regard. When we were approaching NATO membership, we mounted a robust communication campaign to convince the larger public that the path chosen was indeed the right one. For Hungary, this strategy paid off. For Montenegro, the situation may well be very similar. Dear friends, in conclusion, just a few words. Southeastern Europe has come a long way, and so has Montenegro. Through determination and persistence, this country has firmly put itself on the path of Euro-Atlantic integration. But let us not forget, even once all of Montenegro's legitimate aspirations will have been realized, there will still be others in need of support for their own journey. We must not forget these countries. After all, joining NATO does not mean that one is leaving one's neighborhood. Only when all of the Southeast European countries will be anchored in Euro-Atlantic structures will the journey of this region be truly complete. That last chapter of the story of this region's full integration into Euro-Atlantic structures is currently being written. By writing the story together, we can make sure that it will have a happy ending. And this conference today is an important contribution in that regard, on that path. Thank you very much.